Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Campbell's Comments Live. Firstly, Daniel Hibbard, I got to do a little bit of rejigging. Daniel Hibbard, welcome, mate.
Hello, Paul. Yes, good to be back. Another week on Loose Lines. Looking forward to it.
I need to just see if I can't move. It's the other way around. That'd be always the case, wouldn't it? I'll just try to remove Susan's name for you. It will work out in the long run, I am sure. Actually, I know how I can do it. I'll just do this. That didn't do it. I'll do that. We can welcome our international overseas correspondent, fresh from a holiday, New Zealand Cup Day, Cameron Bray. Firstly, welcome to On Loose Lines, mate.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, boys. Pleasure to work with such professionals.
Yeah,
Daniel
right.
at least, anyway. Daniel at least.
New Zealand Cup, big week for you Kiwis, mate.
Yeah, normally be a humongous week. It's still a big week of racing, but unfortunately with COVID and bits and pieces, it's a very scaled down version.
It is, but it was still good racing.
Oh, hell of a good racing. Yeah, sensational. Yeah, it looked like it was going to turn out to be a wee bit of a Mark Purdon benefit festival, but towards the end of the day, it sort of started to loosen up. A few others got the chockies.
Yeah, absolutely. Rightio. We're going to encourage everyone to get involved in the conversation. We've got 2 people viewing at the minute, so we need more people than that, but that's okay. Cam, you're not drawing a big crowd.
What's that? Is that the missus and the daughter watching, are they?
It's probably me and Daniel, to be brutally honest. But it'll be fine. We'll get there. We want people to get involved. There's a lot of harness racing people that watch the show, tune into the show, and they come in, and we probably want to talk about the HRA slot race. We're going to leave it open for a little while, but we'd like people to get involved with their thoughts on the slot race. We've got plenty of other stuff to talk about and promote as we go along, but it's one of the key talking points that's come about in yesterday, in a very interesting time that it was released. I found that part, I don't know, Daniel, if you actually saw, but yesterday it was released at a very strange hour, especially considering it give a bit of a drive-by for a few people, and they probably would have all been sitting down watching the New Zealand Cup. So interesting time to release it for a start, and some interesting words probably put into it, Cameron.
Yeah, no, the Trans-Tasman rivalry is alive and well, watching that, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'll say that to start with. It's interesting.
Nigel Armstrong's on. Nigel will be upset. Nigel, you're on soon. Don't you worry about that. He's made comment that you might be a lightweight, Cam.
Oh, yeah, no. Was he there yesterday?
He was there. Don't
was he
knock.
a day off, was he?
Don't knock Nigel. I tell you, there's harness racing unhinged. But who was he representing yesterday? He'll tell me in his comments. I'll get it in trouble. But I loved what he did. I loved HRNZ's Facebook as well. I don't know if you saw, Daniel, any of them, but walking around, interviewing people, just on phones, just with the Facebook, but just showing the colour that people can't get to. We've got to do different things to get it out there, I suppose, and into the light, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, you don't need to be, have all the whiz bang gear that Campbell's Comments have. That's top of the range stuff. But if a simple phone and a video phone can promote yourself, promote the industry quite easily. But it's it gets out there very quickly, and that's what you've got to do. And it was good to see.
He hasn't missed already, Nige. He's already typed in IRT. I don't know what that means, but NZB, they have their own freight line, don't they, Cam?
Yeah, no, we do fly NZB air freight. Yeah. First class service at economy rates is the catch cry.
This could get interesting. I love what Nigel does. I love what a lot of the guys do with their promotion and the likes. It is key. It's really, really good. I had Regan Todd come on with me, and I think he thought I was trying to stitch him up. I don't know where he got that idea from, Cam.
No, I wouldn't have a clue, Paul.
He was very nervous, Daniel, when I was interviewing him, and he was waiting for some question about who he was swinging hands with or something. Is that where it was meant to go?
Well, I suppose one thing here in New Zealand is we don't have a lot of this sort of media, and I reckon it's fantastic what you and Nige do. You sort of get into all the dark places where the mainstream stuff just doesn't get, and I would say probably Zoom interviews for trainers aren't a huge thing in New Zealand. So it's good. No wonder poor old Regan was a bit touchy, because he watches your material. It's a wee bit sort of from the hip, who knows what could happen.
He was driving the car, Daniel.
And he was driving too, yeah.
He was driving the car. And I was like, man. Anyway, he's like, no, it's okay. Different rules here in New Zealand. I'm like, okay. So we did it. Had a couple of little dropouts and things like that. Yeah, but you say that, Ken. We can do a lot of things now, and I do want to. I lost my ability to be able to. The simple way of getting in touch with people was through Messenger. It's very simple, as you say. These Zoom ones are a little bit trickier, but we've got that back. So we'll continue on now, and we'll get the word out there. Actually, just on that very quick, we've got to give a good shout out to a young girl that works for Crown Dalgety, and I forgot her name, but she had her appendix ruptured. I interviewed her.
Oh, Sarah O'Reilly.
Yeah, that's tragic for her, like especially with the opportunity of driving chances, but they actually burst.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, no, I haven't really caught up on what's happened today, but I just heard the other day that it had burst open. I think Dad took a few of her drives just to sort of keep things going.
Yeah, very, very sad, because a good opportunity, because a lot of the Daniel, a lot of the it was only the Aucklanders. Some of the North Island could get down, could they, Cam?
Yeah, parts of the Waikato and Auckland are sort of hard lockdown still.
Yeah. So anyway. All right, as I said, people, please get involved. Don't be scared to fire any questions through with us. We've got it all lined up. Daniel, how was your week?
Busy week. I was at Cobram it was at Bendigo Saturday morning, and then Cobram Trots on Monday to call the 9 races there. And I have to say, it'd be nice if we got some really faster class horses at Cobram, because I dare say we could go really, really quick, because the track was absolutely on fire on Monday. It was a really good card of racing there. We had 9 good races. The trot race at the start, Marengo Bay for David Jack won again. Nearly broke the track record. He's going around the Breeders' Crown Heats
tomorrow
in a little bit. And it was a great day there. And off to big night for me personally tomorrow night. Sandown Greyhounds calling the preludes of the Melbourne Cup, and it's the meeting tomorrow night, for me, it's a bit like Derby Day on the Gallops. It is absolutely wall-to-wall class all the way through, and really looking forward to tomorrow night.
I don't know, I've got myself into a little bit of a tiz here. Hang on a sec, we'll go back to that. Cam, I don't know if you go to the Greyhounds or not, but this Sandown Greyhound Racing Club is one of the most financial clubs in the game. But what they actually do as well behind the scenes, they're so well resourced. And Daniel sent me a text message the first night he was in the tower, and it was something along the lines of, wow, would that be simple enough for it, Daniel?
Yeah, it's an amazing setup, and it was just unfortunate that there was not a soul in the joint. There was no one there. It was completely empty. No crowd on course, but looks like we'll have a few there tomorrow night, and hopefully by Melbourne Cup final night on the 26th, it'll be a full house. So looking forward to it.
It will be a full house, and it's an awesome night and what they do. We love the Greyhounds, Cam. I don't know, the way they treat us, Daniel. It's amazing, isn't it? What they do. Like, I get a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, but just the way they look after you. They look after you so well. They're so keen to promote their product. They're so keen to try different things, which I really enjoy too. So they look at it differently.
It's a bit of a growth product.
It's all about the dog too. That's all that they really worry about. Like, it's the people, but they really get behind the dogs as well.
They do.
It's quite a growth. It's quite a growth product over there, isn't it?
It is. The share, the percentage share, I guess, of the turnover for the dogs has gone through the roof in the last little while. Whereas the harness has sort of stagnated a little bit, and if anything, gone down a fraction. And I would like to think that from a harness perspective, it'll certainly start to increase in the next little while with how things have been going on here lately. But you're never going to be able to compete with the Gallops, and you're a fool if you think you can. But it's important that we get as much of our share as we possibly can.
You changed your name, Daniel. You're a good man. You changed it from...
very clever at this end. Very clever.
Hey, I've just built you your own little camera. Don't you worry about that. And before he feels left out, there you are, Cam. You've got your own too, but he can't see it. That's a problem. Cam's he's a rookie. You've got to have your Facebook page going as well, so then you can actually monitor what is actually what's going on.
Oh, hang on, then. Well, I can get it going here on the phone.
Oh, you have phones over there. You're going to be in the dark.
Hang on. There.
But yeah, it is actually really, really key. Righto. Now, Cam, I got into trouble last night. I was actually at Shepparton Harness Racing Trials, and I didn't go and see the great man. But I was there for a little bit of a video coming up. A lot of people are asking me what it was all about, and I've got to get the right hat on. Thanks for not telling me about the hat. You guys got to have more hats. Oh, he doesn't change hats, Cam, but your hairline's going the way. You should be starting to wear as many hats as what I am.
I know we've discussed this with your man Troy Harley, but I think the hat thing, like the way you're changing hats, you end up with bloody grazes on your head, the way you're moving the hat from backwards and forwards. Have you ever considered the NASCAR suit we talked about, where you just got them all labelled up and you just,
I'm waiting for James Jennings to send me over one of those vests, and once I get one of those vests, then I'm going to start labelling it. Wouldn't he cry if he sends me one of those and I put all the logos all over it? He'd be crying.
You'll be finished. You'll be finished.
I'd be finished before I started. Right, Nutrien got an online sale going on at the minute, so I want people to be aware of this. It starts on the when is it? The 19th, lunchtime Friday the 19th, and it goes right through until 6 o'clock on the Monday. And you can actually see there on screen we have got. That's the wrong one. I need to push this button. I've got buttons going everywhere. There is 4 lots just there. I'll actually bring it up so we can have 5 lots. Unfortunately, Cam's going to be, we're in the way, but there's actually no photo for the lot number 5 at the minute. That's just not going to work. I know what I'll do. Hang on a sec. I can do that too. We'll just grab this like this. Whoops, wrong one. Put that one back up there, and we'll go. How's that? Now we look better. Rightio. 5 lots going round. I done an interview the other day with David Thorne on lots 1 and 3. Let Us Grin, Pretty in Pink, ready to run sales, Cam. We've had a bit of a conversation about these, you and I have, going forward. I think they're very, very important. And before we get on to the reason why we think they're important and why they actually do work, lot number 1 is a colt by Tintin in America out of a mare called Let Us Grin, Daniel, pacing bred. But has left a horse, full brother, called Let Us Trot, that goes around tomorrow at Maryborough, and will be very, very competitive tomorrow. He's had 2 starts for 2 wins. And this will get back to myself and Cam's thoughts on where we reckon these ready-to-run races can work, can't they, Cam, going forward. There's only 5 numbers here, but Nutrien are committed to running these sales, so they will continue to run them. They'll be running it again next year. We want people to be involved and get involved in it. But Cam, your thoughts on the ready-to-run sales, mate?
Yeah, I think that it's an integral thing that I think as a industry, or both industries. When I talk industry, I'm talking Australasia. That needs to happen because currently we only really have one trading market or 2 trading markets. You have yearling sale time and you have racehorse market, going horse market. Now, I think for the benefit of horses that possibly haven't got pedigree for commercial pedigree for yearling sales, the ready-to-run type market suits, and for a later born or later maturing yearling that's possibly not going to show itself in its best light at yearling sale time is going to be benefited by a ready-to-run sale. But how I believe the only way it's going to work going forward is if you take time out of the equation. Now, a lot of people will go, and we can't do that. But really, the thoroughbreds have done it. Have done it, years ago, and it became more about how the animal actually does it than just, beat the clock, because 90% of the time they beat the clock all right, but when you get them back into training and bring them back up, there's nothing there.
Yep.
So that's I got pretty firm views on that, and it's very hard to try and change that mindset because we've been stuck in it for so long. But for it to be successful and for it to be sustainable, you've got to take the time out of it.
Yeah, and I think that is key because people try to push them and they try to make them go hard. Last night I was over there to do one for Daniel Jack, an American Ideal out of Fantasia. She's very well bred. That's lot number 4. She was the winner, I think, of $50,000 in stakes. The mare won 6 races. It's by American Ideal. Sorry, I've copied that, so we don't need to know too much more. That sought after horse. But unfortunately, he rocked up last night and there were shadows. So he hasn't strode up as good as what he could because he'll step in the shadows. Yeah. Daniel didn't factor it in. He forgot about, Shepparton being a night track. And it was a blazing sun yesterday, wasn't it, Daniel? It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night, yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately through the shadows. Lovely pacer, got a beautiful action. You have to take the time out of the equation for him because he just wasn't a settled horse. He wore a shadow roll anyway, plus then step in the shadow. So it does make it very, very hard. But as I said, there's 5 lots there. There's one from Charlton. I've got to go up to Charlton and do some video work then for the Sandersons. They're very, very keen. But the interesting thing about it to both you guys, there was a lot of people said to me last night, we didn't know it was on. It's been marketed as best we can, and Cam, I'm sure you guys are finding this at the minute with COVID, but it made it a little bit harder to get a lot of the marketing out there. We put it on here, they put it on the radio, they put it where they could, but going forward we'll definitely be marketing it so people are aware. But it's a no-brainer. If you've got a nice pacing one that doesn't have the pedigree, it's a great way of moving them on, especially if you rule out that time and trying to get them to be dashing up as fast as they can.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to show all your wares. So at the end of the day, if you're going to take it to that extent, why wouldn't you just take it to the races and win a race and sell it for twice the money?
Yep.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Yeah, and you Kiwis know how to sell one. You know how to catch.
Well, we're to the detriment of our own bloody industry, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's got to that point now.
Yeah, that's right, and that's another talking point. We might do that another night, Cam, because we could end up being the most hated people. Peter Doyle's joined us, Daniel. He's been very polite.
Regular.
So he's obviously not on night shift.
No, good to have him on board.
He must be a bit of a rose man, I think, too, Pete, that's for sure. So very scary. When I look over it, there's a big delay on Facebook, and I looked at the wrong screen then, and I was like, we got a close-up of Cam's nose. I didn't need that, but it's all good. I have got it under control. But yeah, one of the mares there, pretty in pink. I think the mare, I'd actually written it down here, I think she's had 12 to get to the races, and 11 of those have won. There's a $136,000 one, a $218,000 one, and a $162,000 out of those 11 horses. So these are nice horses.
What she said, 12 to the races, 11 winners.
11 winners, 3 of them over 150,000 in stakes. And she herself won 15 races and 103,000. Competed in the Oaks, competed in all those races. That's lot number 3. It's by Yankee Rockstar. It's big.
Oh yeah.
It's big. It's green. It needs time. Gets back to what you say, Cam. It's a lovely filly, and it's got breeding on its side. So, yep, good one for a good entry.
It's got longevity on its side too, by the sound of it.
Yeah, it's good, and it's entry level. And David didn't fly it. I think it ran home in 30 seconds. So around Menangle. Right. So both his horses went a minute and 61 and a half. 29.4 she got home in, and the other one got home in 28. So around Menangle, that's fine. And I reckon that was really, really good. And the other part with the Nutrien, I actually caught up with the guys from Ringers West, and you talk about being not a pimp, but good little chat there. They've got a horse called Montefief. Both of you gentlemen would know that. So he's going into the classic camp draft, which is huge, because he was a winner of $625,000 in stakes himself. So they're rehoming horses that haven't raced. We're rehoming a horse that hasn't won a race. And I did that interview. I haven't let that one out just yet. St. Breeny, very well bred horse, Daniel. He's related to St. Flash and all those here. Noel Watson's hasn't won a race. So they've got one that hasn't raced, one that, and then they've got a couple in the middle, and now they've got a champion in Montefief. So, well, not champion, but a very, very good horse. Contested an Inter Dominion, contested 1 or 2 Miracle Miles, about 3 or 4 Len Smiths. So, it's he's a very good horse. So they're trying different things, that's for sure, and I love what they do in Nutrien. But don't forget, the online sale commences next Friday, 12 o'clock, and finishes at 6 o'clock, but once the golden buzzer finishes. So, yep, I'll be going live. Might have to ring one or both you guys. We might have some fun and go live. But 5 horses, we might only be on for 5 minutes, and that'll be no good at there at all. Peter Doyle, I think he must be drinking on the job if he thinks we're informative. That's for sure. Highlights, a couple of the highlights I found for the week just quickly. Samantha Pascoe drove her 100th winner. We've got Philip Wood, who always watches. He'll be watching. He'll keep an eye on me. There's no worries. So she drove her 100th winner, I think, on Monday. celebrated her birthday on Tuesday. So congratulations and happy birthday, Sam. And it's a great effort, Cam, because she's a young girl in South Australia, hard place to cut your teeth and get going, and she's getting there. She actually was a world champion. She was a world champion in, I can't remember exactly what it was.
That is some of the best stuff I've seen for a long time. This is television gold, this.
It's left me too. It's it's not.
You are the best there is.
It's not camp drafting. It's where they have to open gates and things like that. Do you know? And this is a true story.
Open gates. Isn't that camp drafting?
No, but no cattle. It's anyway. I'm gonna have to ring her up and do another interview just to get myself.
Just stop. The bus is already backed over.
Get myself out of trouble.
The bus go, all right?
Yeah.
But true. This is a true story, guys. She actually went to.
You'll be able to edit this out, won't you?
No, it's live. She went to America and she was invited. She was the youngest person ever to be invited. I think she was 14 years old at the time, and she went over there. But she had to get on a strange horse, and they competed, I believe, over 10 days. Anyway, she won one of those events. That's how she became the world champ. But she could have won the whole show. But because when she got over there, she didn't have enough time, so she decided she'll concentrate on the early ones, the disciplines, not worry about the end ones. Halfway through, she found out that first prize was a Chevy and a gooseneck from America. She's 14 years. So she was doing a lot of homework afterwards. I think she ran 4th overall. It's a great story. But then she comes home, and because she started driving horses, she's not allowed to compete in that discipline. It's an amateur discipline, and because she drives horses and makes money, she's not allowed to. And I just find that ludicrous. I think it's just crazy to stop a kid from following her dream. Both is
would you say she's ticked over 100 winners?
She ticked over 100 winners, so it's a great story, yeah.
Well, she's making a good fist of it, isn't she? Good on her.
Yeah. Western Pleasure. Alexander Hurley, thank you very much. Ranch Horse Paulie. No, sorry, Desiree, you were wrong. Yes, we are live, Pete. Pete's giving me a hard time online. Yes, Daniel?
I was just going to say, we're going on about 100 winners. I'll talk about, I didn't mention this to you before the show, but I will mention it now. A fella who drove his first winner, and that was last night at Albury, a fella by the name of Harry O'Neill, who works with Peter Ramiro. I don't think he's missed a trial at Shep over the last 6 months. I reckon he's driven pretty much every night for the last 6 months at the trials, and he's driven pretty much the same horse at the trials every week, a horse by the name of $1 Million Art. He drove that horse at Albury last night. It had its first win since 2017. It's had 141 starts, won 11 races now, and it got up at 30-1 last night, got up in the last hop to win there at Albury last night. So well done to Hayden, well done to Peter and the team there. They had a double. Rambunctious also won on the night at Albury, but a real good to see Hayden get that, Harry get that win. It was, look, he as I say, he's there every week, driving the same couple of horses. He drives $1 Million Art and he drives Miss Kentucky. And to see him get that first win last night was a good reward, because he's been putting a lot of work for a long time, and good to see him get. I think he's only called his first drive he drove probably 2 weeks ago, so I reckon he's only had probably 4 or 5 drives when he's driven his first winner.
Well, he's a good man. It's a good track, Cam. It's a good track to drive a winner at. It's a good track to drive a winner at, Daniel, because it's.
If you get round the bottom corner, you're doing well for a start.
It's a coliseum of death.
Oh.
I'll tell you, a lot of people here wouldn't know. Bucket list job is New Year's Eve. Yeah, I'm sure they still have it. They have a New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Eve. When I was a junior, I went up there one year, Cam, and they said, "Oh, it's big," and you're like, "Oh yeah, you go to Albury, it'll be big. Yeah, there might be 1,000 or 2." Yeah, the back straight. There was people parked. There's a road that runs down the back street. People parked there, almost like the Americans, and there was a crowd the entire time. Plus, the stake money was up, so the racing was keen. I can tell you that it was. Yeah.
And then at midnight, you get the fireworks,
and no one goes home. The horses go home, and that's it.
Beautiful.
Everyone else stays. It is a ripping place to go to. And New South Wales, I'll give them a drive-by here. They almost brought it to its knees because they took all their money away, put them back to $3,000 races, wouldn't let them have TAB meetings and the likes. Thankfully, they're starting to see the light now and give them back some of their races. But, yeah, nearly brought them to their knees in Albury, and it's just so sad because that's what harness racing is. It was a tough place to win at. very tough place to win at, but it was very, very good. Must also, Daniel, say a happy. I'm going to go with 21st. Just play it safe to Stacey Towers. It was her birthday during the week, so we'll stick with 21. I think it's a safe spot to start, isn't it?
Yeah. No, don't go any higher than that.
No, I don't think so. She'll kill me for mentioning it was her birthday, full stop. Very quickly, while we have Desiree on, now don't forget, Desiree, go to Southcombe FH and make sure you follow her page. But she does a lot for me with harness breeders and the likes. My First Racing ABC. And I always have mine with me. I've just got to get off that light there so people can see it. But yeah, I always have it with me because I always need to know my ABCs, Cam. You would know that. You'd be well and truly aware of it. But you can get this for all your children in plenty of different ways. As saw this there, there's a laptop. A tablet cover, the whole box and dice. And no, Cameron, I don't get a kickback for that one. Thank you very much.
No, you're all about the love. It's good. Well done.
I will give Desiree a huge shout out. She's been tutoring my daughter, and I must say thank you to her because she has done a great job. But she's behind Harness Breeders Victoria as well, who are very smart in industry participants about the way they go about things. I really definitely like what they do. We mentioned the slot race before. I've got Alex Hurley, she's online there, and I know a few other people are interested in it. Don't forget to start thinking about your comments. We'll bring some of those in a second. Harness Racing Victoria, South Australia announced a new acting CEO in Dean Elliott, and I think he's going to come on Campbell's comments very shortly for an interview as well. So hopefully a little bit of positivity. Philip Wood's been back as he's the chair of all the country clubs. So Philip's very proactive. He's also the man behind Hamilton Harness Racing Club. So we'll be doing some things. I think I'm going live there for their Cup Carnival again, which is early January as well for the Mount Gambier one. So it's another, Cam, you got to get over.
Another bucket list.
It's another Coliseum of Death too. Don't you worry about it. It's just tight, aggressive racing. So there's a fair bit of fun to have there. Right, Cameron. Let's talk New Zealand Cup, and we'll go straight to Copy That, because Copy That obviously is by one of my sponsors' products in Woodlands, and he didn't go through the NZB sale because you guys weren't selling at that stage, but he went through the same sales ring, I suppose.
He went through the he went through the
Weanling,
or those PGG rights and Weanling sale.
Yeah.
So like he wasn't an expensive Weanling. I think from memory it was about 7,500. I think.
Yep.
And Ray and his partner secured him and managed to get him going. That's when they obviously sold him on to Merv Meg. Great story though, because we all remember the controversy of last year's start of the New Zealand Cup, where he sort of got dick before the start, really. And it's great to see him, come out and win the way he did. Yep.
No, it was good, and it was some very good celebrations afterwards. Pretty happy people, to say the least, and he's a lovely horse. He contested Queensland. Daniel, remember the Queensland Carnival? He really announced himself, but yesterday was just brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And,
yeah.
Hang on, Daniel Cameron, you got to wait for I say your name. You see, you're right, Daniel.
I was just going to say, it's systemic in New Zealand racing, unfortunately. Here, I think a lot of people wait to see what Mark does, and I think it's a classic example there in that race, where they sat back waiting to see what Mark and Self Assured would do, and then what South Coast Arden would do, and by the time they realised what they were doing, it was all too late.
Yep.
He'd run away with it.
Daniel?
Yeah, it was I sort of watched the last bit of the race, and it just looked like Blair had controlled things and made it really almost impossible for him to be run down, and he really deserved that victory after last year, and he's been very consistent. So full raps to the team for winning the big one. It's the one that they all want to win, and they got the job done.
They did indeed, and Merv Butterworth, I know very well personally. We used to pre-train for Merv. Grant and Karen train horses. We had Arden Rooney here for 2.5 years. He's previous New Zealand Cup winner too. So well done to him, and well done to Connections. There's some interesting marketing going on, Daniel, too. I don't know if you saw it. It was the Australians versus the New Zealanders, and we somehow adopted Copy That purely through the Merv Butterworth one was how we.
Did I read something that the last 3 winners have all been owned by Victorians?
That'll be right. That actually will be
Yeah,
right.
you got the Quinella yesterday too, yeah.
Gene Feast would have had the two prior. So yeah. Anyway, that's okay. Don't say that because the Kiwis aren't happy with us at all. In any way. Very, very quickly for my New Zealand friends that may be watching Harass the Trotters, the other day they announced, I've got to change hats while I'm doing this, and I can do that at the same time, but they announced that the Bold Eagle is available in New Zealand, and so is Bird Parker. And we talk about New Zealand Cups, and I'll tell you an interesting thing about Bird Parker, boys. He set a time faster than Lazarus when he won the New Zealand Cup over the 2 mile. He went 1:12 around a French track for a trotter. That's not bad going, is it? So, yeah, so anyone in New Zealand interested, he is available for 9,500 New Zealand. For us Aussies, he's available for 9,900. But that's just one of the oddities of how it's worked, because the New Zealand dollar, they've got to pay in Australian dollars, Louise said to me. But they've got a huge draft of horses there. The only one not available on that list was Fabulous Wood. They haven't been able to get him, but there is a couple more announcements coming very shortly for the Kiwis with Harass the Trotters. And the way the Trotters are going is just sensational. There was a little bit of talk on social media about, I suppose, the depth in the trot the other day, Cam. But your main trot race is on Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, the Dominion on Friday. Yeah, I know. Even just from a sales perspective, we've had we've been declining and mares and foals being bred for a number of years, and through the yearling sales this year, in fact, we've had quite a in comparison to what we're selling, quite a significant increase. We've ended up with another 25 yearlings going into that trotting catalogue. So that's on the move up when a lot of our pacing bred stuff is on the way down.
Yeah, and it's the same here, and we can clearly see that, and even like Kath McIntosh, Pastor Stevens, again, Woodland with What the Hill's sought after all over the world. So, and they're sought after in both sales last year. So it is very key. What were the rest of the highlights for the day, Cam?
Well, we must give a mention to your cobbers there, and obviously the Woodland Stud Sire Stakes final for the 2-year-olds, which probably didn't go the way they wanted it. There's a horse won that called Franco Indy, which is by Always Be Mickey.
You're getting this, Cam. You're all right, mate. You're working it out.
Yeah, Franco Indy by Always Be Mickey, which ironically is owned by Alabar and Neville Stud syndicates, and actually is the best part of the Chase Auckland syndicate actually purchased into this horse as well. So isn't it funny how things go? The Woodland Sire Stake finals won by Neville and Alabar by one of their stallions, but it's good for their stallion, Always Be Mickey. There's a number of them on the ground, and he's doing a good job up in America, and it's great to see them translating here to New Zealand.
Yep, absolutely, and it's also good. I've got to get off that one. The way they promote it, and when I say they, Woodlands promoted it. They knew Franco India was going to be very hard to beat, but also Alabar as well. When they mentioned the race, they made sure they mentioned the race sponsor too. So I think both studs are very aware of how much branding and how much bang for your buck you get back from your sponsors.
Well, you got to be respectful, don't you? Ironically, actually, the Quinella was bred by Spraden Lodge, which is, for the want of a better term, a subsidiary of Neville Stud. So it just shows you the emphasis, the big studs now, the mantle they're taking up and doing a number of breedings throughout Australasia. Yeah, no,
it's very key. What else? How many others did we have for the day? Did Regan get a winner?
No, he didn't. He had a couple of placings, I reckon. The Trotting Free For All was another Group 1 we had over the short trip, which Mark. That was one of Mark's ones he cleaned up with Oscar Bonavina, who was a very, very good young horse, age group horse, and sort of been off the pace a wee bit. It was an okay field, wasn't a big field, but like he's beaten Bolt for Brilliance and Majestic Man, who are both they're not slugs, you know. But one thing I will say, Mark Purden is just he is probably one of the best in Australasia at setting a horse for a final and being ready to rumble on final day, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, he is very good at. But he also can pick his mark too. Like Dominion Handicap would have been a tougher ask for him, and I reckon he would have said, "Well, we'll make sure we're ready to go Tuesday."
Oh, correct. There was another one there, race 4, which is the winner of the Woodlands final last year. Always Have Faith, the Captain Treacherous horse. I don't know if you remember it, Paul. It was a real front-running, head up in the air type horse. Hasn't been sighted for 12 months. Come back, pretty much 12 months. 12 months to the day off the scene. And there was a bit of talk on course about it, and I see they backed it in from 12s into 480. Well, bugger me, it come out and brain them. Unbelievable.
Right, yeah.
And the other one on the day was the junior free for all, the Group 3 junior free for all, where Krug he won that pretty convincingly too.
And a bit of a return to form, and good to see him back winning. And I noticed that Carter Dalgety had a nice haircut because it wasn't completely out of control. It's either that or it's starting to thin and he can't control it as much.
He's a good man, Carter. He's a good man. But no, it's good to see. Very good to see Krug hit a bit of form now. He's sort of up fighting the older horses, and probably the raid over to Brisbane wasn't as planned. I think also just getting him out in front and trucking along in front is another way that he's sort of got to be run too. You don't think I'm not 100% sure he likes getting looked at.
Right, Daniel. Cam's already alerted me to these. You're not aware of these figures. Some of these figures, Cam, that you said to me there before about turnover. So they had a restricted crowd basically yesterday. 1,000 people, Cam?
Yeah, I think it was 1,200-ish in the end. So this was just reading from the tab over here, the press release around racing yesterday. So 12 months ago, the Cup Day turned over $11.3 million. So we're under COVID conditions. Our biggest city's locked down to buggery, and we've managed to turn over 10.9 million, which I think is fantastic, being 400 down on the day for what's going on. But the interesting thing, they carded one less race on the day, which obviously has a significant impact on turnover. But more importantly, I think they said last year they had 15,000 or 18,000 on course. This year we had 1,200, and the on-course turnover was only down 100,000. So it shows you that, there's a few of us do quite a bit of the punting. And that there's quite a few thousand people there just for a few shandies.
Daniel's
open the wallet.
You can see the look on Daniel's face. He's like, "Oh yeah, these are good figures. Yeah, these are good." But that's just amazing. It just blew me away, that one. Yeah, So,
but unfortunately, that like I said to you, Paul, it doesn't tell the full picture, because as Nigel contests to, the club miss out on all that hospitality, all those young people that use it as a party day. That'll be a significant loss to the club, and you've really got to feel sorry for them.
The other part of that too, Cam, is what might have been if they had have had racing open and they had have had 12,000 people there. You might have. I think we've told you. Myself and Daniel have spoken about it a couple of times, but I think there was 16 million turned over at Lord's Raceway on Bendigo Greyhound Cup night heats and Victoria Cup night. And that's just unseen, unheard of. And people are just not sure exactly how it come about, whether it's because of COVID and everyone's sitting at home, or it's because of the great products that were put on. And I think it's a bit of both, and the way they've changed it. So, which is really, really cool. But you've got to feel for the clubs. And the people, and you say there before about Nigel. I mean, Nigel's one of those people that loves crowds. There's so many people that love being able to promote the sport in such a great way. And I know he was frustrated. People had to stand on spots, Daniel. They weren't allowed to leave the spots. Yeah. And that was Nigel's job. Nigel's job was to keep them on the spots.
Yeah, imagine that job. You know what I mean? Imagine that job. It would be, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. And I would do. It's fantastic we've been able to continue racing through this, but God has had a lot of stress and pain to what would normally be an enjoyable and quite, great day.
Yep. Well, even I did Maryborough last week, last Sunday, and crowds were allowed back there, but they weren't allowed anywhere near the horses. It's sad, that part as well. They're fenced off. They can see the horses on the track, but they can't get near the participants. There's a double fence, and it's just it's crazy.
So what's the strange thing about that is that it's segregated on course, but they can walk out the front gate together and then shake hands in the car park if they wanted to. That's how silly it is.
Yeah, it's proceeded.
I went to Ashburton for their Flying Stakes Day, and the sponsors had to be in a separate room, owners had to be in a separate room, trainers and drivers couldn't talk, couldn't be in any of the same sort of facilities. But after the last race, we all walked across the street and had a beer in the pub afterwards.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, each to their own. Andrea Gorman, no tipping. She lost control. What the?
She's lost it. That can't be good.
That cannot be good. Charlton, the social club at Charlton must be really causing some grief. She may have got to the pub too early and forgot to ring anyone, Daniel.
May have.
Hey?
May have.
I don't know if she's just joined us and realised that she's forgotten it and all the rest. So I noticed Geelong are building their own media room. They're taking the Trots Division seriously. So, yeah, they're getting a media room up and built, I saw tonight. So they're getting a few things happening. Philip Wood sent me a message too. It's in April, the Mount Gambier Cup, so which is right because it was a weekend of Charlton as well, Daniel. The big punting weekend. Right. So, yeah. Charlton is very, very busy and a very, very hard place to go. Do we want to have a go, Daniel? We're 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll have a look. Give me a sec. I'll have a look.
You got 13 minutes to the 8 o'clock race. But this will be riveting. This will be riveting for Cam Bray. So, but I've got to try and find my Toad app. That's how bad I'm going. I can't even find the Toad app. So by rights we should have 17 minutes to go before the next race, Daniel. And
we should have. Hopefully.
19 minutes. It's not going to race on the hour. Oh, it's one of those great races too. Oh.
51 to 55.
Sorry about this. Is not great TV. We're just I'll go with the one, Daniel. We'll see. I'll tell you what we'll do, Andrea. I'm going to have 100 on the one straight out. So I'll give you. You can have 100, Daniel. Let's see who comes out on top, mate. You can't have the one though.
I can't have the one.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll have the 8 then.
Each way or straight out?
Straight out.
Right.
Kazan.
Rightio. A bit of fun there for the Charlton Harness Racing Club. Cam, you guys might not, the Kiwis mightn't be aware, but they actually have a great social club there on their Facebook pages. They actually get people involved and do different things. So it's really key. And Andrea, I'm feeling for you because Peter Doyle's back. He might be drinking, Pete, I reckon. But it's great what they do. They want people to get involved with the Charlton Harness Racing Club. They have an All-American Day on the 4th of July. They have a big punting day in April for their cup. And basically they have, what they have last year, 7 celebrity punters? 10 was it? 10.
Yeah, it was a lot, yeah.
Cody Winnell and Nikita Ross actually won it, local HRV people. But and it's just great. But smart marketing, Cam. It's not designed around the families because families come to cups anyway. It's designed around the punters and on those big days, like the importance of those sort of figures. It's really, really good. I do love what Charlton do, I must say.
I remember the Charlton thing on 4th of July. There was a thing with Yonkers or something, wasn't there? They have a bit of a go there.
Yep. Unfortunately, some bloke let them down a little bit. Charlton and my internet don't work. I've done 2 things for Charlton and both times my internet hasn't worked when I've got home, and unfortunately we had no internet for 2 days and was catching up with Timmy T-Trick, but we definitely will be doing something next year and we will be getting it going. Rightio, done just about most of it. I've got one other little side swipe to have at the end of it, but the HRA slot race has been announced. And their endeavours, it was released on YouTube. Anyone wants to see how to find it, I actually got to go and try and find what the page is. It was attached to Adam Hamilton's Twitter page. It was a bit sneaky the way it was released, and they said a few things on it, but at the end of the day, it's been lukewarm received, possibly at best, Daniel. A lot of people aren't, I suppose they're not sure about it, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't sort of gone into too much detail, but obviously people will know what the Everest is in the Gallop side of thing, and the Phoenix, which is the Greyhound equivalent, which has really taken off. Actually, it's proven to be really a real strong, strongly supported. It's close to a million, or over $1 million in the pot for the for the winner, essentially. So it's not far away from being on. It's after the Melbourne Cup in a couple of weeks' time. So they've got the slot holders, and they've all paid their, I think it was 75 grand to get a slot. So it will be interesting to see how the harness version plays out, as I haven't gone into too much detail to sort of find out a bit more about it. But the concept obviously has worked in the gallops with the Everest, and looks like it's going to work in the dogs. But you'd like to see that it's it can work in the harness as well.
Before I throw to you, Cam, it's not guaranteed working in the dogs just yet, Daniel. There's a few curveballs being thrown up the closer they get to the time. With the horses, they're locked in a long way out. There's people dragging their heels on what horse they're going to lock out. The tab has turned around and they're basically saying, well, we're going to be guided by the Thompson stable. Whichever one they tell us is going to go in, it'll go in. So it's hard to bet. The leading person that's trying to get the most income out of it aren't announcing their greyhound yet. So it definitely works with the thoroughbreds, with high-end, big egos, people trying to snaffle up horses like Red Zell straight away, and the likes. And then, there's other people play the game. Chris Waller won it this year, didn't he, with Nature Strip? Didn't even give anyone else a chance to get it. So it does work in the thoroughbreds. I'll wait and see with the greyhounds. I'll wait for 2 years before I say it works.
I think the thing with the dogs is because there's so many, so many more animals, I guess, and really, a lot of really strong dogs. It's sort of, there's a lot more to choose from. Whereas in the gallop side of things, it's a 1,200 metre race. That sort of, that restricts it a little bit to what's available. You're not going to put a stayer in by any means. So, it does narrow it down a little bit. But as the dogs, it's sort of, it's the one, it's the prime distance, 500 metres, and there's plenty of dogs to go in. Essentially you've got the dogs that are running around tomorrow night at Sandown. There's 60 of them. Any of those 60 would fit into the 8 of the Phoenix.
Yep, and that is one of the key parts.
That's a huge plus, isn't it?
It is. Cam, New Zealand announced a similar style race through NZB and the likes, and a lot of other people involved in it only weeks earlier, and copped a little bit of backlash, which was unusual, to say the least.
It was a wee bit. It was a wee bit. It was sort of a wee bit disappointing too, because at the end of the day, we're only trying to do the best for our own industries, and we've seemed to be taking pot shots at the Australian calendar, which is it's pretty ridiculous, really, because I can personally speak about the Australasian Breeders' Crown, because 90% of our yearlings and our sales pay up for it. Yet we don't have one heat in New Zealand anymore, and they virtually get 300 yearlings, paid up for that series for not one bloody heat. We designed a slot race on this very similar format, but half the price. It's only a $500,000 race, our one, because we had reservations over the sustainability of it in harness racing. And the last thing we want to do is go guns blazing and then turn around and fall on our face in year 2, year 3, because although you're wanting people to pay up and you're going to have the great egos and bits and pieces, when you're relying on a small pool of those that money and egos, after a while, no one likes losing money cold year after year. So it's got to be a bit sustainable. We're going to need some additional funding from the code. Because you need to pay back to basically last, so they're getting something for their money. It can't just be a jackpot race, because after the second and third year no one wants in. But what was key to that was the complemented horses coming, if they wanted to come out for the Auckland Cup, and a few races in and around that. So it was basically putting on a sort of mini carnival in between the end of the Miracle Mile before Brisbane.
Yep.
So that was the design of it, and when we needed another race to basically try and attract Australian horses here.
And then now,
that's basically.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
No, I was going to say, and then now, this race, it's just been.
Well, now they've chucked that straight on top of it, to be honest. Which it's disappointing, but it's for 3 and 4-year-olds. Ours is out and out open class horses, so like there's going to be a wee bit of that. But with the age change now, that you're relying on so many of those 4-year-olds in that sort of open class pool of horses too now. So it isn't. But it's a shame that's the way it's worked out, because it's just sort of we're both going to end up with 2 mediocre type races probably now.
What about the Inter Dominion and you guys stepping away from the Inter Dominion? How's that been received from the people you've spoken to over there, Cam?
Well, in New Zealand, it's probably we've had so many challenges over the last few years with it, where we, one rotation there we ended up with the Christchurch earthquakes, which scrapped it. We really don't. One of the things that people need to understand is we really just don't have the depth of open class horses here in New Zealand now. That you do have to fill these heats, and we don't have the ability to probably do that and do that well enough. And the other thing was just COVID and things like that. We're just not trucking quite like we were, and we need to look after our own nest, so to speak.
I think that is very key. Like I said, there was a couple of swipes. Andrew Kelly's got to look after HRA. That's Harness Racing Australia, not Harness Racing Australasia. So he has to look after that. And I understand the toing and froing, but he's got to realise that you guys are trying to look after what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, exactly. And even though we're looking after what we're doing here, that's not going to stop the sale of horses to you guys. All we're trying to do is extend our life with those horses before they do get sold. I think we just need to extract a bit more revenue out of those horses for the benefit of our industry. You guys will still end up with them, 90% of them. You know what I mean? Because that's just the way New Zealand's set up. We breed horses, we background horses, we sell them.
One of the other big things about it has been like the stallion levy over here. It's a great word instead of stallion tax. It was tried to be introduced last year. It's come back up in this interview. Anyone wants to see the interview, go to your YouTube and you type in Rise, and then I don't know how you get the big line, but just type in harnessracing.org.au basically afterwards. It's only had 60 people view it, so a lot of people aren't aware that it's actually there. If you want to go and see the interview with Andrew Kelly and Adam Hamilton, they outline everything that they're going to do there, and you can hear from the way they both talk about it. But the stallion levy or the stallion tax, more or less putting it back onto the breeders to be able to help facilitate this $1 million race. Tried last year, and that's the one that's got a lot of people upset over here. Cam, I'm not sure how you guys over there feel about that.
Well, we have some of those principal studs here in New Zealand. That obviously has a massive effect on their business, but and I'm by no means commenting on their behalf, but from the outside looking in, it seems like the whole industry is paying for a slot race for 10 individuals.
And that's...
Or paying a portion to it. Now, is that... if you're going to tax the whole... levy the whole industry, is that the best use of that money?
Yeah.
That's all only the questions I've got, because we look at you guys over there. You've got your breeder bonuses, which are fantastic. Your breeding industry has really turned around. It's a very positive. To then limit stallions, which also has been a slight stifling for some of the studs, to then now have this. It seems like it's a bit tough to me, but it would be all right if everyone was getting a suck of the salve, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Daniel, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, but yeah, I have to agree. I think it's it's you don't want to be lining the pockets of just some people. You want to be sharing the wealth, I guess you could say.
And I think that's one of the things that the stallion levy as compared to a stallion tax. Not sure the difference, but a lot of the smaller people are saying, well, we can't afford to pay 15% more to go to these stallions. We're at our limit. Yet the people that will be competing in that race can probably afford to pay 3 or 4 times those levies. They might be able to do those all the time. That was a moth, Cam. I saw that moth fly across in front of you.
Yeah. There's another one of my fans.
And I think that's one of the sticking points that a lot of people aren't happy with, that if we want to go to American Ideal at 12,000, why do we have to pay, effectively it would be another $2,000 extra. So on top, if it happens this way. And all the studs said.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to ask you, Paul, about it. So in this proposed, and I haven't read it into great detail, in this proposal, does that mean the levy applies for trotters too?
I believe there's a different way they're doing the trotters, but yes, it does.
Okay.
But it does.
Because I know there's slot races an open race, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So it's very different. And the trotters are the ones, Harasta Trotters, Woodlands, What the Hill, Classic Connection, shuttle stallions that are going to be coming backwards and forwards, we hope, to further it. And the interesting part was, last year they said they were going to put a tax on them to start it off with, a levy, sorry. This year they've said that at the end of the season they will equate that levy. So more or less they're saying...
Square up.
Yep. So it won't happen at the start, it'll happen at the end. And by the sounds of it, you might get a 10% or a 15% because it hasn't been announced. So I know it won't be well received that way. $1 million race would be awesome. I think a lot of people would love, something different. This will be interesting. I'll throw this one to you guys. The Queensland Carnival and what they did in Queensland for mine in that time slot was sensational. Why does Sydney, Melbourne have to try and take that away from the Queenslanders? Why don't we turn around and say, rightio, in Victoria and Sydney, we'll back right off. All our leading stables pack up and go to Sydney, to Queensland, and have a huge wagering windfall that, people go up there and take their better horses. Why do we have to compete with them in these time slots? And conversely then say to the Queenslanders, listen, the last week in December is going to be Victoria because we're going to have the Super Sires on, and you guys get behind us and go from there. Is it too simplistic? Am I looking at it too simply?
No, you're not. They should get you to go and talk to Mr. Volandis in the thoroughbred world if it's that easy. That you'd be able to sort out all their issues quite easily. No, I mean the calendar. Yeah, it does need to be. It needs to be fair for everyone. You're gonna be attracting different horses at different times of the year, but Queensland traditionally has always been, the winter time's always been their time slot, and it needs to be promoted like that. It needs to be pushed as much as possible. New South Wales have their time slot with the Miracle Mile and all of their big races across that time slot, and Victoria have really made basically the back end of the year their own, which traditionally has sort of been a little bit quieter. Obviously you'd have the summer carnival in January and February, but we've sort of moved it back to a December time slot for our futurity races, and you've still got the Hunter Cup and that in the new year. But even still, across that period, that's where Victoria's always sort of held its own, and I don't see why it shouldn't be pushed as hard as we can. New South Wales has that time period, sort of, I guess, September to November, I guess, and Queensland has their period through the winter, and then of course you've got Perth on the other side, which providing they can open up the borders and everything like that, they've got their carnival as well, sort of, I guess in the new year time slot as well. It's not that hard. It just needs to be, sort of ironed out so that everyone gets a piece of the pie.
Cam, you and I are very big on Australia and New Zealand and making the industry such a bigger product. The last month or so probably put a bit of a dampener on a lot of that, hasn't it?
Well, it has really, because before the great Victorian New South Wales thoroughbred war that's sort of come into effect, really the thoroughbreds had it locked down pretty tidy, and they had a great wee model where people sort of got out of each other's way, and everyone, well, on the face of it, worked together, and hence why you guys had set your calendar 12 months previous to us. We found a hole in the calendar where we could slot Auckland Cup in and a few other things, and try and attract Australian horses to New Zealand for the benefit of both codes, and then they can take that direct flight then to Queensland. So what we're seeing is the two countries' greatest horses going head to head, which builds, interest. It builds two different betting countries together, so we both benefit. This is for someone in a suit, getting paid drastically more than me and Daniel, probably not you, Paul, but this is the sort of decisions that these guys need to be sitting down around the table and ironing out, because at the end of the day, harness racing is too small to go head to head with each other.
Absolutely, and we need to grow it, and that's what you and I both keep saying. And I think the two organisations we both, well, I do a little bit for the NZB as well, but they won't. I've got a hat on and a shirt on of two different sales companies, and I think they're open enough to realise that we have to grow our products. We've got to be able to promote it positively. We don't need bickering, we don't need fighting. Fighting makes things ugly, and it gets disappointing, and then you get this pointing of who said, she said, he said, and it then gets ugly. And it's Daniel, you've referred to it a couple of times, Peter Volandis. I mean, I don't think half of New South Wales even like what he's doing. It's only the metropolitan trainers that actually like what he's doing there, and the rest of the people are like, man. They're
getting made out to be, the whole state's being made out to be the bad guy when 95% of them aren't the bad guys. So it's a big issue, but it's not only from a thoroughbred point of view, but from a whole racing point of view. It is a nasty situation that we're in, because the implications can filter through to our code as well.
Oh, absolutely, and it worries us. And myself and Cam have had quite a couple of conversations. We scratch our head a little bit as to why they've chose to go this, down this light. So anyway, I encourage people, don't only read it, but go and listen to the dialogue and how people present things. I think sometimes when it's written, it can be interpreted differently, and you can get to see people's body language. Alexander Hurley said there, finally breeding is on the up. Let's increase the cost of it. Great idea. We said last week, Daniel, when we were at Lower Long Farms, there with Kath McIntosh and Mark Hughes, 5,000 bred last season in Australia alone, Cam. They're figures you guys would love to get.
Oh, exactly. And that's why I just can't, for the life of me, understand why you want to try and hinder that.
Yeah, you're not on your own. So
exactly.
Seems crazy. Wallace truck and let it keep rolling.
Just for the record, Cam, we've gone about 600 metres, and I am behind the leader. And young Daniel's son is hard on my back. I think he was hoping I might have been able to lead, I reckon. So yeah, the leader should be hard to beat. The leader is the favourite, but we'll keep you updated. We only got about 1,000 metres to go. So yeah, no, look, I'm disappointed in it. I'm openly say I'm disappointed in it. I'd love to get Andrew Kelly on and have a chat to him about it, just see the rationale behind it. Whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. I might even be able to get someone from New Zealand, Cam, going forward and have a talk about it on the New Zealand show. We are going to talk next week on the New Zealand show, Cam, just quickly, the sire stakes, payments, and where they're at in New Zealand, aren't we?
Yeah, well, obviously the payments structure's changed slightly with the change in birthday over here, so moving to sort of your calendared year like you guys over there. So Martin Pearson from the New Zealand Sire Stakes Board has, and the reason I said to you about it is he's a great way of telling the story of the whole thing. So I think from our first interview you did with Martin, we've had significant buy-in from Australian with horses eligible for the New Zealand Sire Stakes. So that's a huge benefit to any yearling sale vendor with an Australian-based or Victorian-based mare being able to be duly eligible for bonuses in Victoria, and also be New Zealand Sire Stakes eligible if the desire was there to take the horse back to New Zealand. I think that's a real plus to you guys over there, real plus.
Last year, Daniel, the horse that sold for 185, Cam, is that roughly, you right? 100 and...
this is your show, mate.
Anyway, the Nutrient sale. One of the reasons when the kickers Gene Feast got in there and got into a bidding war, and I'm in trouble. No, I'm not. I'm going to come out on top. Got the chockies. Thank your mother for the rabbits.
Geez,
I got beat. I think I might have got beat. Actually, I might have gone. I might have gone the early crow.
Closer than you think.
I might have gone the early crow, Cam. I might have got beat.
I think you might have gone the early crow here.
I think it's very hard to see on this little phone. Oh,
I think
you're blaming it on the phone. Get off it.
No, I can't see it. Daniel, that the horse, one of the kickers was that Gene Feast was there because it was eligible for the New Zealand sires. So that season,
it was a Golden Goddess colt, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 182,000. That season that there was horses that sold for the reason Gene Feast come and bought it. So there was 3 horses that year paid up for the New Zealand sires in Australia. Cam, this year there is.
I think there's 67 or something like that. I think have paid, which is great. You know, it's great for your guys' sales over there. It's probably not so good for a sales company in New Zealand, thinking, Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on here? You're going to have horses eligible for New Zealand racing in Australia. You're going to have New Zealand Kiwi owners are going to have to look at that, especially if this bonus thing keeps carrying on.
But the flip side of that is you also might have 10 or so colts, well-bred colts that could go back to New Zealand and race. So it may not be all bad. There's definitely two sides.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Two sides to look at. Just for the record, I done me 100 cold.
You don't go against a race caller. I know these angles. Like I can't get Shepparton, but I can certainly get Geelong.
No one can get Shepparton. Even the big fella upstairs has got no idea it's Shep. That's fine. So, rightio, 180.
We could really make some connotations about going off early, but we're better than that.
Yo chimed in. It's 180,000. Thank you very much, M. And Em, do you like the way I'm dressed at the minute? I'm sure she does. They're very good fitting shirts, designed by Ringers Western. Just put it out there that and great supporters of Nutrient Equine. The whole uniform at Nutrient Equine is supplied by Ringers Western. So great sponsors. Rightio.
You got a whole set yet?
I'm trying. I'll get there. Don't you worry about that. I should have put the logo up. I haven't even got the logo. Leave those things to me. I get them going forward.
You want to just say that Em might be able to organise a pair of those overalls for you with all your brands on it for you.
Yeah, the full jumpsuit. Yeah, it'll be right. I'll walk it over to New Zealand. See, she's impressed. I love Emily. She's such a lovely lady. Don't you worry about that. What I was going to say then, 2 things. Right, we normally do fields. We're not going to go through all the fields, but there is Breeders' Crowns on Saturday night, Daniel. Very quickly, some of the highlights you saw, or you see coming in to it?
I was going to say.
Sorry.
So we've got the semi-finals of the Breeders' Crown at Melton on Saturday night. Look, you've got the boys first, the 2-year-old colts and geldings. It's the 2 semis are you're probably looking at some of the best 2-year-olds we've got going around. I don't know if we're missing any. Certainly from the first heat, look, it's probably the first semi probably as tough a one as you're going to get. Beach Villa's going well. Impressed with his Charlie's Angel. Obviously, we saw it win at Cobram on debut, smashed the clock. Has been pretty consistent of late, and it was good to see it win its heat. So it's got to be probably one of the hardest to beat there. And the other heat, the other semi-final, just as strong. Obviously, Catch a Wave's the big watch there. Can still certainly do stuff wrong, but was really strong in its heat. But there's some good winning form throughout those 2 semi-finals there. So looking forward to both those. I really couldn't pick a winner out of either of those. To be fair, I reckon it's pretty. It's going to be really competitive because you'd be desperate to those that are drawn badly are going to be desperately driven to make sure they get through to the final.
Catch a Wave, just Cam, you mightn't be aware, but Kate Gaff is the most infectious, easiest person to interview anytime you want to. Oh, she was so frustrated with him the other day. He's by Captain Treacherous, actually, and a lot of the good judges tell me he's the benchmark 2-year-old here in Australia. What I saw the other day, he is clearly that, but he nearly fell on his head out of the mobile, went about 100 metres, nearly fell on his head. He wanted to bore up the track. He gave her, and afterwards she was flummoxed. She had nothing. She was just so quiet, and she didn't want to speak highly of him at all, to say the least. But he is very, very good. His Charlie's Angel was very settled, Daniel, for him. son of Sweet Lou, of course, that stands at Woodland Stud. I never miss a chance. Don't worry about that. But he is a handful. There's no worries there. Some of our 2-year-olds, I think, Cam, this year compared to your New Zealanders, manners are their biggest issue. The benchmark ones that their issue seems to be a bit of manners. I reckon they can be a bit rude. Some of these guys.
Well, I think we talk about that particular sideline we're talking about, Captain Treacherous. It's a hot mile speed type horse anyway, so you're going to get a lot of that anyhow.
Yep.
We look at our thoroughbred mates, the sprinter milers. They're hot, they've G'd up, ready to go, and we're effectively breeding the same thing here.
Yep. Yeah. No. Exactly. They're a different way of racing. Brutally handsome. I could tell everyone, go to Sunday Maryborough. It was heat number 2 for the Breeders' Crowns. On the night, the Mimosa Homes Breeders' Crown Series. Watch the drive on G Sugars. From barrier 7, he was 3 back the fence before the winning post at Maryborough. He then went out. I think he was about 5 wide at some stage. He went back to him. It was just a brilliant drive. It was really one of the best drives you'll see, and loved every minute of it. He knew he'd put on a show afterwards. He is the king of the Cheshire Grin, and he had it beaming the other day, I must say, afterwards. So he was well and truly up and about. Are we going to go through them all, Daniel, or we're just going to have a quick...
Oh, just quickly, probably the Blue Revenge grade, the 3-year-old Colton Geldings. The first semis race 3. Acknow probably, he's stamped himself as probably one of the best ones we've got going around. He's drawn barrier 4. He's going to be pretty hard to beat if he finds the front, which you expect. Obviously, the key danger there is going to be Beyond Delight. The stablemate, his 2 runs back have been super. So he's obviously the key danger there. But you take those 2 out of it, and it's a really even group of 3-year-olds. But there is a nice bunch of them there. The second semis race 5 for the boys. And Rock and Roll Do's been in super form for Mick Stanley. He's got the 2 in the race there. American Dealer's drawn its outside. Also got a bit of time for Ian Bucky, and he's drawn barrier 7, probably doesn't help his chances too much. And the forgotten horse, I guess, in a little way, is Major Moth, who won the Sires last year. He's been racing against the absolute elite. He hasn't really done anything wrong. He's got a nice second row draw there if he can get a nice trail through. So that grade, the boys and the 3-year-olds, it's a competitive series. But Acknow's probably shown himself to be the best one that we've got.
Has indeed. Cam, we're going to throw to you. A horse that I was super impressed with, it's just unbelievable. Amor Vita. Heat run of her the other day, Daniel, I don't know if you saw it or not, but at Maryborough was just breathtaking. But a Better You as well was possibly a shade disappointing. How do they line up as far as fillies in New Zealand?
Well, a more Vita, I think it was sort of just a middle of the road filly from memory, but it sort of looked to suit that sort of style of racing over there in Australia. I remember the horse actually went through the yearling sales, and they were pretty firm on the money, and they didn't get it, and they stuck to their guns, and by God, looks like they've backed the right horse there, so to speak, haven't they?
It was just phenomenal the other day. It was my worry, Daniel, how a couple of them are going to back up. That's for sure. I don't know how a few of them will back up after that. But
what's interesting about the 2-year-old fillies, the 2-year-old fillies series, is that there's 2 semi-finals and Emma Stewart's got half of them.
What race is the other one? So I don't keep
race 10. So you've got race number race 4, the first semi. Look, that's a really good race. Emma's horses, there's not in that one out of all of hers. There's probably no absolute star that I could pick out of hers. They're probably more in the other semi-final. I'm just trying to bring it up.
You've been a bit harsh because there is an absolute jet in that race that just keeps getting the job done in Irish Black Label.
I'm talking. No, that's what I'm just going to now. That's the one that's in the second semi. She's the one in the second semi. I absolutely love this horse. Always have. I remember she ran second in the Bullion heat and then won the final when she absolutely had no right to. She was a mile back and then had to come extremely wide. And I don't know how Dave Marine got it up to win that night, but then she came out and won first up at Geelong when didn't expect her to do it. There was a couple of heavily supported stablemates in the market, but she still won. I think she's certainly she's the pick for me. I reckon she's a dole, and I think she's a good chance of winning that semi despite drawing the second row.
There's a horse in that race, depending on what odds it comes up. Lovato Beach. I see Cameron Hart's down to drive it. Earplug popped out on it just as a release point, and it cracked it and galloped and went to kick Kate out, and then was a phenomenal run in a slowly run race. But the horse underneath it as well sounds perfect. Ended up in the death, got a little bit lost, only got beat about a length and a half. Kez driving, lovely run, a couple of those. So yeah, that was it. What race is that? That's a 3-year-old mare's race.
So the only one we've missed is the 3-year-old fillies. Their first semis race, race number 6. Look, Beach Music in that one's probably got the runs on the board with the barrier draw. She's been in great form of late. Good to see Tough Tilly bounce back into form and win her as well. But the barrier draw probably makes it a little bit difficult to see her toppling the stablemate there. But that's the first semi-final.
Hang on. Got to look after the sponsor's product. Life's a Beach will be better for the run. And I see the Kiwis on. Josh Dickey, Woodland sponsored rider.
Is it his first? He's only just arrived, didn't he?
Yep, that'll be his first drive. So yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Good to see. Good to see him over here anyway. Well. So, and on the sponsor's product, Daniel, don't you worry about me, mate.
Oh, it's all right. I'll let you get in there. the other semi-final, obviously, Ladies in Red beaten for only the second time last time out. I think don't worry too much about that. I think she'll just bounce back. It's not. I don't think that's as strong a semi as the other one. Certainly, moments like these suggest that Tubbs and Greg Sugar's figure form probably doesn't read too well, and Better Twist has certainly got the good draw to take advantage of. But Ladies in Red's been one of the best fillies we've probably had in the last little while, and she's going to be really hard to beat in that semi.
Desiree never misses a chance. She's got a photo up on Lower Long Farm's Facebook page. She's even attached the link to it. But it's by Always Be Mickey. She just took it down on me. She might have redone it anyway. But
I think she put Black Irish Label. I think she put the name around the wrong way.
Oh, nothing wrong with being dyslexic here, especially when you're teaching my daughter. So it's all good. It's back. You're right. Irish Black Label. So you'll get into trouble for picking up her faults, Daniel. Don't you worry about that. Could have been worse. So it could have been me that picked it up. So it's a good night of racing. That's for sure. Tomorrow there's all the trotters. I'm doing that for Maryborough Harness Racing Club and Trots Vision. I'll be live on Trots Vision. So big week of racing. Trots Vision. You'd like to get the Trots.
The boys are on. It's at the early part of the day. The 2-year-old Colts and Gelding. I mean, it's pretty hard to tip against Plymouth Chubb in the first heat. He comes up with the A straw. He'll be really hard to beat. The one in that race, though, that I'm keen to see how it goes, having its second run for the O'Donoghue Bartley Stables. Destined Son. Obviously, he's got a fair bit of ability. It's won a race, and I think that it won't lose anything going to that stable. Expect it to run all right. And the second heat is probably Courage Stride's race to lose. It's certainly not the stronger of the heats. And then the third one, we're looking at a nice type in Lettuce Trot, who we mentioned earlier in the night. Berrettini for the Quinlans, and then the Anton Galino's Cravash Door goes all right. The first starter, just keep an eye on it as well for David and Josh Aiken. He's a hammer. It hasn't gone too badly at the trials here at Chet, so expect it to be not too far away either.
That's actually a good race, that last race, because Mercenary goes good, King City goes good. It's actually a very, very good race.
Probably the middle heat's the one that's probably drops a little in class. I think the other two are pretty. Obviously, got the gun in the ace in the first heat, but the second heat's probably a little bit weaker than the others.
Mojito Madness, David Scott's horse. That's a covert legacy cam. The Mojito Madness. It was no good for them, but it is a good day of racing. There's quite a few Kiwis going around. Have No Fears lining up. Chris Lang's got a huge stable. He's got 3 in the Woodlands stud breeders. That was good timing. I didn't actually see that, but he's got some nice trotters getting around him now, Chris Lang, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He's good to see him back with some nice horses. I saw him at had one at the Pacer in at Yarra Valley on Melbourne Cup Day. But yeah, it's good to see him with numbers again, which is what we're, I guess, so used to, and having good trotters. You don't sort of see him go to the races without a handy trotter.
Ura Faesa is going around in race 5. Got a little bit of publicity the other day because myself and Luke managed to butcher the name. I was close, but yeah. But anyway,
I did see that, but I wasn't going to mention it. I thought I was just going to let that go.
I was close, but yeah, I can butcher any name. But Ura Faesa is how you pronounce it. So I was eloquently sent a message. So, and it wasn't a derogatory message in any way. I did actually like it. It's a really, really good Queen of.
It's a good meeting, isn't it?
You found it now, haven't you? Yeah, Queen of Loida.
Yeah, no, I'm just going through it as you boys are talking about it. Yeah,
yeah, race 6. It's a rip and field. There's some really, really nice trotters. Unfortunately, Webster Hall's scratched already. That's probably a little bit disappointing. Loxley Lover, race 7. Daniel, are we tipping? Daniel has a soft spot for the Shep horses.
Oh, and I have a soft spot for chestnuts, and this boy's a raging chestnut. Look, he's certainly going to be a chance in that race. The What's Up Majestic probably one that I've got to be beating, and so is Parisian Artiste, who has been going very well. It was a super run in the heat of the Derby, and will certainly appreciate dropping back to the 1.25 mile trip. So, but yeah, got a soft spot for Loxley Lover, and hope he runs well.
I'm working with Lockie Mack tomorrow. Chestnut love yous. He loves them. And I just was looking there because Maestro's won. There'll be a couple others in if I can find them.
What about what's their Queen of Leader by?
Is it by Love You too? Is it?
Love You. Is it
Sure
a chestnut though? Because it's Bay.
Yeah.
The yearling full sister we sold for the huge money was chestnut.
Yep. Well, if Lockie had been over there, he would have got it. So Daniel. It is your mate's breed, although they didn't breed it. How do I pronounce? And I know how they got the name once I looked at it. How do we pronounce number 12 in race 9?
Oh, jeez.
Majecte, I'm going to go with because it's actually by Majestic Sun out of Verecte Phoenix.
Well, was that? It's out of Barukti. It's actually pronounced Barukti.
So it's still Majukti. We'll go with. They must have known I was going to be working when they put it in for its first start.
That'd be what I know. As I say, I know the mare, and I knew the mare was called Barukti. I think it's something to do with Germany from memory. I think it's named after a town in Germany or something like that.
Barukti Phoenix.
Yeah, I'll have to get that clarified on a technicality, I suppose. But yeah, we'll go with Majukti.
That one is not. It is by Majestic Sun, the MAJ, and then Varukti is the last part. That's how they've come up. I was looking at it, and I'm like, how they come up with this? And that's it. The 7 Double Joey, simple name for me. God bless them. Owned by Bruce Edwards, not fashionably bred. It's by Roll with Joe. So yeah, an interesting combination. Karen Manning driving, Emma Stewart trained. So that one got me a bit intrigued. I must say.
Very often, would you?
No. Yeah, well, she did drive one. She drove one for the Camerons in the heats the other day. That was one of those horses I mentioned just before on Saturday night. But she doesn't drive a lot for Emma Stewart. And yeah, it's an interesting one. I know Kate's got Thunder Wing and that in there, but you know, Greg's on the other one. So I'm sure they would have had plenty of people put their hand up to drive it. So it's good that Kez is driving for him. I really like it. So yeah, and the last race at 20 minutes to 6. Going to be a long day. I can't wait though. It's going to be good racing, I must say. So yeah, so that's about it.
Have you got your umbrella?
What for?
Isn't it going to rain?
Oh, I'm under the cover. I get looked after. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
Les and the crew. Les and the crew look after me. Sensational. So no, it'll be full coverage.
One of these precious media fellas, eh?
We'll be bringing Parade Ring. We'll be having some driver interviews. I'll try and bring out some different interviews. If I could convince the boys to have some media, I might even be able to ring you through, Cam. But that won't happen. Rightio.
Tell me though, the amount of makeup they put the makeup on you with a paint roller.
No, they don't put me on camera. They never put me on camera.
That's good. I've got a vision, but thank Christ.
I got a complex, but it's okay. I
scare the women and children.
I can live with it. Rightio. A little bit of Peter Doyle's already rocked out. We haven't quite finished, Pete. You'll like this. So a little bit of social media fun the other day. Now, I don't know. I put this on Twitter, so I reckon you guys would have seen it. But there'll be some people that aren't on Twitter. So the picture's a little bit blurred, but this is Greg Sugars, and he has just drove, Brutally Handsome was the name of the horse. And this is off Jess Tubbs's Instagram post. So she's written underneath, seems a slightly inappropriate caption, but it's hard to disagree, being by the husband. But this one was the kicker for me. The next one, he wins the last race, and I didn't know, but the horse's name was Playing Up. And then she's put underneath, he better not be. And I just reckon, well done to Jess Tubbs, because having a little bit of fun, but also just thinking outside the square. I just reckon it was just...
That's clever. That's very well done.
It was one of those really clever things that she did. Greg said to me, I said to him, how did you come driving so well? He said, Jess made him this beautiful eggs and all the rest, and I gave Jess a bit of a rap. I said, well done, keep it. And she sent me a photo. They took a photo of their breakfast. I tell you what, he didn't go bad on the food in the morning. I know that. So might be one of the things we might have to ask him first if Jess cooked him breakfast, and if so, he'll be out there driving. But I just love that. I couldn't get over that one. I thought it was very, very clever. So well done to her. Rightio, Cam, NZB. Nothing to report else. We're going to do a few more of these going forward, though. There's no worries there, especially now you've got your den of equity or whatever you called it.
Yeah, no, we're just sort of slowly building. That's an old shipping container I've just turned into my office / den.
You got to get rid of the moths.
Yeah, no, I got to hold the bloody door's got a bloody bit of glass missing out of it, so stuff going here. We
won't be doing the crosses to you in the winter, but thank you very much for joining us, Daniel. Thank you very much, mate. Hello, Desiree doesn't miss a chance. Maryborough, the home of the Harness Breeders Victorian, sponsored Humbletonian Day on Wednesday, the 8th of December. All maidens, all Vic bred, bottom up, ballot, bonuses all round. Hopefully I'm working that day too. It's a ripper day. Everyone wins a $7,000 bonus, Cam, for their breeders as well, or breeding bonus. Yeah, it's just a ripping day. So that is on the 8th of December. So don't forget that. I'll tell you what, it's very, very hard to get a run on it. I think Desiree will tell me, I reckon last year we had 12 races and there was still nearly 100 horses miss out. So it's just ridiculous, people waiting for it. So, beautiful. Yep, it's really, really good and at the right time of the year. So good racing. All right, boys. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you for coming on, Cam. I might see if I can't tee Nigel up next week. Have a bit of fun and a bit of post-race thing.
Right. Bloody hell, how good's that?
One show and you're off.
You send me to the paddock after the start and you put me to the paddock.
All right, we'll have you back. You're going to come back next week?
Oh, we'll talk about remuneration first. Just don't get too carried away.
He's a little bit precious, Daniel. He's a little bit precious. I noticed that. So, all right, boys. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a bit of a wrap. It's gone a bit longer than normal, but that's par for the course for us. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in. We've got a few thumbs up and a few hearts, so that's always good. But thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, mate.